Labialization is a noun that comes from labialize, the verb, and that comes from the adjective labial, and that comes from the Latin word labium, which means lip. So first you would think, what is labialization? We have a sound that is not labial, and then we labialize that sound, and labialization becomes secondary articulation to it. So what do you do when you labialize a sound? Basically what you do is you round your lips, both of your lips. You may even protrude your lips, like push your mouth to the front, like ooh. You shape your mouth like an O. That is what labialization is. If you have a word like coop or shoe, in which the first sound is ka and sha in these two words, but they are followed by the sound u, the vowel u. During the pronunciation of u, the lips are rounded. What happens here is that the rounding of the lips because of the following vowel, which is u, in a word like coop, results in a labialization feature on top of the previous sound, which is ka. In other words, if you refer to my videos on assimilation, here we have an assimilation of ka to the following vowel u. Therefore, because the direction of assimilation is flowing backwards from u, it's a regressive assimilation. And because the sounds are next to each other, they're adjacent, it's a process of contiguous regressive assimilation. I mean, if you have the word coop, so first I'm going to do the transcription, coop. If you want to be still more accurate, what you need to do is you need to recognize that the ka is being labialized due to the influence of the following u. And what happens here is you have to put a secondary articulation feature, which in this case is w. So this is how it's pronounced, coop. And obviously, if you want to do this more accurately, so coop, the p is not audibly released, coop. Labialization may be an essential feature of the sound rather than a secondary articulation. So that's the thing with labialization. So the vowel u, for example, is essentially a labial vowel. Although if you look at the chart, you see that it's a high back vowel. But you also notice that it's a rounded vowel, and the rounding refers to the lips, which means that it is labialized, because how do you labialize? You round your vowels. Labialization can be secondary articulation in the case of consonants like coop, or in the word shoe, you labialize sha. If you look at the chart, the IPA chart, and look at the diacritic section, you have a symbol for labialized. You see that there are other consonants that can be labialized as well. It's not just about coop and shoe, it's about ta and da. Isn't that interesting that the word to itself has a W in its regular spelling? And then that kind of gives us a hint. So what did I do to narrowly transcribe to? First, I transcribed it phonemically, phoneme by phoneme, ta and nu. But I added two extra symbols, which were, one of them has to do with secondary articulation, which in this case is labialization, and the other one is the length of the vowel. So it's not very difficult to get from broad to narrow transcription if you follow these steps carefully. What about doom or boom? Like when you learn secondary articulation and how to use a symbol, suddenly a great door opens to you and you learn that, oh, I can do a lot of narrow transcription myself, because now I know that I can transcribe secondary articulation and I know what the symbols are. You need to know that sometimes instead of using a superscript W, you may see a subscript W for labialization. Labialization differs from other types of secondary articulations. The first difference is that labialization can be combined with another secondary articulation. What this means is that, for example, you may have palatalization, velarization, or pharyngealization as secondary articulation, and you can have labialization on top of that. in the secondary articulation processes of palatalization, velarization, and pharyngalization, the tongue is involved. The tongue shapes are so that they cannot occur simultaneously. For example, in these three secondary articulation, because in each case, in order to produce them, you need to change the position of the tongue, and you only have one tongue, you cannot combine them together. But because in those processes you're using your tongue, but in labialization you're using your lips, you can use labialization, which is your lips, at the same time as your tongue, right? So you can combine these two. Basically, labialization is an added degree of lip rounding or protrusion of the lips, which creates labialization. Therefore, because of this feature, even sounds that are labial by themselves, like pa, ba, and ma, if you increase the degree of lip rounding and protrusion during their production, so you're increasing their labialization as if you're adding labialization on top of it. So you're labializing the labials. How do you do that? By exaggerating the labial feature. So in pool, for example, so you see, in 3 steps, I added 3 details to the transcription. Okay, what is happening here? Pa is already labial, but now I exaggerate the labial feature of it. I labialize the labial. Pool. In order to do that, I have to round my lips more and I have to protrude my lips more. Pool. Labialization is often accompanied by raising the back of the tongue. So labialization is rounding of the lips and pushing them forward. But this is often accompanied by raising the back of the tongue. Because of the movement, it automatically raises the back of the tongue. This is why this symbol, which stands for W, is used, because if you look at the chart, you see W is labial velar. This means that it can be considered as a secondary articulation that can be more accurately called labiovelarization. So in a way, often labialization is not just labialization, it's labialization velarization or labiovelarization, which means that lip rounding and protruding plus velarization, which is raising the back of the tongue or tongue back towards the velum. However, this is seldom distinguished from labialization. So people, unless you want to be really into detail, people just go with labialization. Speaking of mixing secondary articulations, there are languages that have a higher tendency to combine labialization with other secondary articulations. In the case of Twi and other Akan languages in Ghana, Africa, these languages tend to mix labialization with palatalizations.